First contact and desperate plea. The signal breached Earth's deep space monitoring network at 0347 UTC on what would otherwise have been an unremarkable Tuesday. Dr. Maya Okafor was the first human to hear it, a structured series of mathematical sequences that couldn't possibly be natural. After decades of listening to the stars, humanity had finally received an answer. "It's not just a signal," Maya explained to the hastily assembled United Earth Council 3 days later. "It's a distress call." The message had traveled across 17 light years from a species calling themselves the Alarians. Through careful decoding, Earth's linguists and mathematicians had pieced together their desperate plea. The Alarians were being systematically exterminated by an aggressive species known as the Coraxian Empire. Admiral James Chen leaned forward in his seat. "And they're asking us for help? They don't even know us." "They've been monitoring our transmissions for decades," Maya replied. "They know we've survived nuclear conflicts, climate catastrophes, and still unified as a planet. They believe we're resilient enough to stand against the Coraxians." On the massive display behind her, images appeared, translations of Alarian, data packets showing a species with iridescent skin and 4 arms. Their cities were architectural marvels of crystal and light. Then came footage of those same cities burning under orbital bombardment, crystalline towers shattering as Coraxian warships, angular and predatory, rained destruction from above. "The Alarians are pacifists," Maya continued. "They've contributed to a galactic community for millennia through art, philosophy, and medicinal knowledge. They've never developed weapons because they never needed them. Until now." President Huang rose from her seat. At 78 years old, she had lived through Earth's final wars and brokered the peace that led to the United Earth. "What exactly are they asking of us?" "Protection," Maya said simply. "They've reached out to the other species in their alliance, but none have the military capacity to challenge the Coraxians. We do." A murmur spread through the council chamber. Earth had been unified for barely 30 years. Its space fleet, while formidable for defense, had never been tested in combat beyond the solar system. General Kwame Osei, head of the United Earth Defense Force, cleared his throat. "Madam President, we should consider that this could be a trap. We know nothing about these aliens except what they've told us." "We've verified their transmissions," Maya countered. "The astronomical data checks out. The Alarian homeworld is exactly where they claim, and our long-range telescopes confirm orbital bombardment consistent with their footage." President Huang paced the length of the council table. "If we ignore this, we're declaring to the galaxy that humanity stands for nothing. If we intervene, we risk everything we've built since unification." Admiral Chen pulled up Earth's military readiness reports on his tablet. "The Artemis fleet is combat ready. 35 ships, including the dreadnoughts Excalibur, Thunderchild, and Shiva. If we're doing this, they're our best option. The Alarians estimate they have less than 1 Earth month before the Coraxians reach their homeworld," Maya added. "After that, their civilization is gone." President Huang stopped pacing and faced the council. "We cannot be the species that listened to a cry for help and turned away. Prepare the Artemis fleet. We will show this galaxy what humanity stands for." 3 days later, the Artemis fleet departed Earth orbit. Humanity's first interstellar armada traveled through the newly developed Shaw-Fujikawa fold drives, technology that the rest of the galaxy would soon come to fear. On the bridge of the UES Excalibur, Admiral Chen watched as Earth shrank to a pale blue dot behind them. "If we're going to do this, we do it right," he addressed his officers. "The Coraxians have chosen to attack a peaceful species. They will learn why that was a mistake." Lieutenant Commander Sofia Rodriguez, the fleet's tactical officer, nodded. "Sir, based on the Alarian data, the Coraxians rely heavily on energy shields and directed plasma weapons. Our kinetic railguns should be effective against their defenses." "Good," Chen replied. "What about their numbers?" They have us outgunned approximately 3-1, Rodriguez answered. But they've never encountered our technology. The element of surprise will be crucial. As the fleet prepared to make the final jump to Alarian space, Admiral Chen addressed all ships. Men and women of Earth, today we venture beyond our solar system not for conquest, not for resources, but to defend those who cannot defend themselves. The Alarians have asked for our help, and we will answer their call. He paused, looking at the stars on his view screen. The Coraxians believe they can prey upon the peaceful with impunity. Today, they will learn what happens when you awaken the fury of Earth. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day of our evolution. We survived predators, diseases, and our own worst instincts. We are the children of a death world, and we will not allow the innocent to fall while we have the power to stand. The Artemis fleet vanished into folded space, carrying humanity's wrath to the stars. On the Alarian homeworld of Luminara, High Chancellor Elavi watched the night sky with 4 eyes that had not known hope in months. Half their colony worlds had already fallen. Billions of her people were dead or enslaved. The grand crystal spires of Luminara, which had stood for 10,000 years, would soon be reduced to dust. Chancellor, her aide approached tentatively. The evacuation transports can only take a fraction of our population. How do we choose who goes? Elavi's luminescent skin dimmed with sorrow. We prioritize the children, the genetic repositories, and the historical archives. Our civilization must survive even if our homeworld does not. And the humans? The aide asked. Do you truly believe they will come? Elavi turned her gaze back to the stars. We have studied their transmissions for a century. They are a species of contradictions, capable of tremendous violence but also profound compassion. They fight for what they believe in, and they despise bullies. But they are so young, the aide protested. Barely a century into spaceflight. Yes. Elavi's skin pulsed with a faint glow of hope. And that is precisely why the Coraxians will not expect them. The Coraxians believe themselves invincible because they have never faced a species evolved from a true death world. In the outer reaches of the Alarian system, sensors detected the approach of the Coraxian Vanguard fleet. Supreme Commander Vrek of the Coraxian Empire stood on his command deck, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. The final conquest approaches, he announced to his officers. The Alarians' pathetic calls for help have gone unanswered. Their resources and technology will soon belong to the Empire. His second-in-command approached with a data tablet. Supreme. Commander, our long-range sensors have detected unusual energy signatures at the edge of the system. Probably more refugees fleeing, Vrek dismissed. Hunt them down. No Alarian escapes to spread their weakness to other systems. Sir, these signatures don't match Alarian technology. They don't match anything in our database. Vrek's compound eyes narrowed. Show me. Before his subordinate could comply, the ship's alarm systems blared. Space itself seemed to tear open as 35 vessels of unknown design emerged from what appeared to be artificially created wormholes. At their center, a massive ship with the words UES Excalibur emblazoned on its hull led the formation. What is this? Vrek demanded. Who dares interfere with Imperial conquest? A transmission cut through the Coraxian communications network. On screens throughout the Vanguard fleet appeared a human face, Admiral James Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. Attention Coraxian forces. This is Admiral Chen of Earth. The Alarians have requested our protection, and we have answered. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately and make reparations for the worlds you have destroyed. You have 1 hour to comply. Vrek's mandibles clacked with amusement. Earth? That primitive mudball? We've never even bothered to scout it. He turned to his communications officer. Send this response. Unknown vessels. This is Supreme Commander Vrek of the glorious Coraxian Empire. Your interference is noted. and will be punished. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." On the bridge of the Excalibur, Admiral Chen received the Coraxian response and allowed himself a small smile. "Just as we expected," he said to his officers. "Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, battle stations. Let's show them how the primitive mudball fights." As the Artemis fleet moved into attack formation, the first chapter in humanity's galactic intervention was about to be written in fire and steel. Shield of Terra. The Coraxian Vanguard fleet adjusted its formation with practiced precision. Supreme Commander Vrek had conquered 12 species across 27 star systems, and each victory followed the same pattern: overwhelming force, strategic bombardment, and absolute submission of the survivors. These newcomers, these humans, would be no different. "Target their largest vessel," Vrek ordered. "Show them the futility of resistance." 5 Coraxian cruisers aligned their main plasma cannons and fired in unison at the UES Excalibur. Brilliant blue energy lanced across space toward the human flagship. On the Excalibur's bridge, tactical displays flashed warning. "Incoming fire, sir," Rodriguez reported calmly. Admiral Chen nodded. "Initiate Faraday protocols." The space around the Excalibur shimmered as nearly invisible particles coalesced into a guided magnetic field. When the Coraxian plasma bolt struck, instead of devastating the ship, the energized matter followed the magnetic channels, circling the vessel before being redirected back toward the Coraxian fleet. The redirected plasma slammed into 2 Coraxian cruisers, overloading their shields and melting through their armor plating. Vrek's compound eyes widened in shock as his own weapons were used against him. "Impossible," he hissed. "No species has mastered plasma redirection." Before he could issue new orders, the human fleet was in motion. Unlike the rigid formations favored by the Coraxians, the Earth vessels moved in seemingly chaotic patterns, making targeting nearly impossible. "All ships, weapons free," Chen commanded. "Execute Operation Thunderbolt." The UES Thunderchild accelerated to attack speed, leading a squadron of destroyers. From their hulls launched what appeared to be primitive projectiles, solid metal. Rods accelerated to relativistic speeds by electromagnetic rails. The Coraxians, accustomed to energy weapons and their defensive countermeasures, had never encountered simple kinetic weapons delivered with such devastating velocity. The projectiles tore through Coraxian shields designed to disperse energy, not stop mass. 6 Coraxian destroyers shattered into expanding clouds of debris. "They're using projectiles?" Rex tactical officer exclaimed in disbelief. "Primitive kinetic weapons?" "There's nothing primitive about their delivery system," Vrek growled. "Adjust shields to physical impact resistance. Return fire with all weapons." The space between the fleets erupted with energy beams and explosions as the battle escalated. Human ships danced between plasma bolts, their smaller size and unconventional, tactics confounding Coraxian targeting systems calibrated for more traditional opponents. Admiral Chen studied the tactical display. "Commander Rodriguez, what's the status of the Alarian evacuation ships?" "Pinned down near the 4th moon, sir. 3 Coraxian frigates have them blockaded." Chen nodded. "Captain Hassan, take the Shiva and Liberator Squadron. Clear that blockade and establish a corridor for the civilians." The UES Shiva, Earth's newest dreadnought, broke formation with its escort of 6 destroyers. Instead of engaging directly, they executed a micro-fold jump, appearing directly behind the Coraxian blockade. "What is this sorcery?" Rek demanded, as the human ships seemingly teleported across the battlefield. "How are they manipulating space?" The Shiva unleashed its main weapon, a spinal-mounted Gauss cannon that fired a 20-ton tungsten rod. The projectile struck the largest Coraxian frigate amidships, the kinetic energy equivalent to a small nuclear detonation. The Coraxian vessel didn't merely break, it ceased to exist as a cohesive structure. Captain Layla Hassan's voice came over the fleet frequency. "Blockade broken, Admiral. We're establishing a safety corridor for Alarian transports now. On Luminara's surface, Chancellor Elaavi watched in awe as the night sky lit up with the battle. Her aide rushed into the evacuation center, skin pulsing with excitement. "Chancellor, the humans have broken through. Their ships are escorting our transports to safety." Elaavi's 4 eyes blinked in succession. "They came. They actually came." "They fight like nothing we've ever seen," the aide continued. "The Caraxians don't know how to counter them." For the first time in months, Elaavi allowed herself to hope. "Prepare a direct communication to their commander. I wish to thank them personally." In orbit, the battle had evolved into a desperate struggle for the Caraxians. Their numerical advantage was being negated by humanity's unconventional tactics and technologies. Vrek's flagship shuddered as another kinetic round grazed its port section. "Supreme Commander," his science officer reported, "I've analyzed their technology. These humans have developed their weapons for fighting in 3-dimensional space. They don't follow standard naval doctrines. Because they evolved on a death world," Vrek realized. "Their entire history is combat against their environment and each other." He paused, mandibles clicking in thought. "We need reinforcements. Signal the main fleet." On the Excalibur, Intelligence Officer Lieutenant Commander Aisha Khan intercepted the transmission. "Sir, they're calling in their main battle group. Estimated 45 capital ships. Arrival in 6 hours. Chen nodded grimly. "That was always their play. We've bloodied their nose, now they'll bring the hammer." He turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to Chancellor Elaavi." The Alarian leader's luminescent face appeared on screen. "Admiral Chen," she said, her translator converting her melodic language to English. "You have given my people hope when we thought all was lost. How can we ever repay you?" "By surviving, Chancellor. We've established a beachhead, but the main Caraxian fleet is inbound. How many of your people remain on Luminara?" "Nearly 4 billion, Elaavi replied, her light dimming. "Our evacuation has barely begun," Chen's expression hardened. "Then we need to accelerate it. I'm dispatching ground forces to establish defensive perimeters around your major population centers." Ground forces. Elaavi's translator couldn't quite capture her tone of surprise. "You would send your people to our surface?" "That's why we came, Chancellor. To protect your people, not just your airspace." Within the hour, Earth dropships descended through Luminara's atmosphere. Thousands of United Earth Marines in powered exoskeletons established defensive positions around Alarian cities. The locals watched in wonder as humans, shorter, stockier, and infinitely more combat-ready than any species they had encountered, prepared for war. Marine Colonel Eva Torres established her command post in the capital city. An Alarian approached her hesitantly, its skin shifting through patterns of blue and green. "Your people willingly place themselves between us and danger?" the Alarian asked. Torres checked her rifle's power cell. "That's what humans do when someone needs protection. We stand in the gap." "But you could die." Torres smiled grimly. "We're hard to kill. Trust me, the Caraxians are about to learn that the hard way." In orbit, Admiral Chen gathered his command staff. "We have 6 hours before we're outnumbered 3-1. Options?" Commander Rodriguez displayed a tactical simulation. "Standard doctrine would have us retreat and return with reinforcements." "The Alarians don't have that kind of time," Chen replied. "No, sir, they don't," Rodriguez agreed, "which is why I'm proposing Operation Hornet's Nest." The tactical display showed the Artemis fleet apparently retreating, then hiding within Luminara's dense asteroid belt. "We let the Caraxians think they've won, then strike from multiple vectors when their guard is down." Chen studied the plan. "High risk. High reward," Rodriguez countered. "And it plays to our strengths. Unconventional tactics against a numerically superior, but doctrinally rigid opponent." "Approved," Chen decided. "But we'll need something to ensure they follow our script." He turned to his science officer. "Dr. Park, It's time to deploy the Chimera drones. Dr. Minjun Park nodded. They're ready, sir, but untested in combat conditions. Today they get their baptism by fire, Chen replied. Make sure they put on a convincing show. As the clock ticked down toward the arrival of the Caraxian main fleet, the Artemis fleet executed a tactical retreat, leaving behind only what appeared to be damaged vessels and debris. Hidden among this detritus were hundreds of Chimera drones, autonomous decoys capable of projecting energy signatures identical to Earth warships. Supreme Commander Rek watched with satisfaction as the human fleet appeared to withdraw. As expected, he told his officers. They realized they were outmatched. Prepare boarding parties for their abandoned vessels. I want their technology. What he couldn't see was the human fleet repositioning among the asteroids, weapons powered down, waiting. When the Caraxian main fleet arrived 6 hours later, Rek greeted his superior, Grand Admiral Kraz, with confidence. The interlopers have been driven off, my lord. Luminara awaits the glory of the Empire. Kraz's massive form dominated the communication screen. These humans, were they as primitive as our intelligence suggested? Rek hesitated. Their technology is unusual, effective, but ultimately no match for our numbers. Begin the planetary assault, Kraz ordered. I want Luminara pacified by day's end. As the Caraxian armada moved into bombardment position, they detected what appeared to be the remnants of the human fleet, damaged vessels limping away from the system. Shall we finish them? Rek asked. No, Kraz decided. They are beaten. Let them return to their world with tales of our might. It will make their eventual conquest easier. Hidden among the asteroids, Admiral Chen watched the Caraxian fleet commit to planetary assault formation, exactly as predicted. All ships, he ordered quietly. Operation Hornet's Nest is a go. Remember who we're fighting for. Throughout the asteroid field, Earth vessels powered up their systems. The trap was set. Now it was time to spring it. The fury of Deathworlder's Grand Admiral Kraz of the Caraxian Empire had never lost a battle. 27 star systems had fallen before his fleets, their species either exterminated or enslaved. Luminara would be no different. Another jewel in the Empire's crown, another testament to Caraxian superiority. Begin orbital bombardment, Kraz commanded, his massive form dominating the bridge of his flagship. The inevitable conquest. Target their population centers first. Break their will. The Caraxian fleet moved into a hemisphere formation above Luminara, their weapon systems charging. On the planet's surface, Alarians watched in despair as hundreds of enemy ships filled their sky. Then space erupted. From within the asteroid belt, the Artemis fleet launched its attack. Railguns fired in perfect synchronicity, thousands of hypervelocity projectiles streaking toward the unprepared Caraxian armada. At the same moment, the Chimera drones activated, their energy signatures suddenly multiplying what appeared to be the human fleet strength by a factor of 3. Ambush! Rek shouted as the tactical display bloomed with enemy contacts. The humans never left! Kraz's compound eyes narrowed in fury. Impossible! How did they conceal themselves? The Caraxian formation, optimized for planetary bombardment rather than ship-to-ship combat, was caught completely exposed. 23 vessels were destroyed in the opening salvo, their debris raining down into Luminara's upper atmosphere like artificial meteors. On the Excalibur's bridge, Admiral Chen watched the chaos unfold. All ships execute attack pattern. Sierra. Marines on the ground. Commence Operation Earthshaker. The Earth fleet emerged from hiding, their formation resembling not a military phalanx, but a predatory swarm. They attacked from all vectors, denying the Caraxians their preferred battle line. On Luminara's surface, Colonel Torres and her Marines activated their trump card. Massive ground-to-orbit rail batteries secretly deployed during the evacuation. Operations powered up and joined the attack. The Caraxian fleet suddenly found itself caught in a crossfire between the human vessels above and devastating ground fire from below. "They've installed defenses on the planet?" Kraz bellowed in disbelief. "In mere hours?" "Sir," his tactical officer reported, voice shaking, "the human ground forces are advancing on our landing zones. They're engaging our troops directly. In the jungles surrounding the Ilarian capital, Caraxian ground forces were experiencing something completely foreign to their military doctrine: close-quarters combat against an enemy that seemed to relish it. Human marines in powered armor moved through the dense vegetation with practiced ease, their tactics honed by centuries of terrestrial warfare. A Caraxian squad commander watched in horror as a single human soldier charged his position. Energy. Weapons fired, scoring direct hits on the human's armor, yet the Death Worlder didn't fall. Instead, the Marine closed the distance and engaged with a monomolecular combat blade that sliced through Caraxian exoskeletons like paper. "They don't die!" the commander screamed into his communicator. "Why won't they die?" Colonel Torres led her battalion through the Ilarian Central Plaza, her armor splashed with Caraxian ichor. "Humanity has a saying," she told her troops over the tactical net. "No better friend, no worse enemy. Today we show the galaxy exactly what that means." In orbit, the battle had devolved into a desperate struggle for the Caraxians. Despite their numerical advantage, the human tactics had fragmented their formation, isolating vessels and destroying them piecemeal. Grand Admiral Kraz watched his tactical display with growing fury as ship after ship winked out. Where did these humans learn to fight like this? They were supposed to be primitives. Supreme Commander Vrek, his earlier confidence shattered, could only respond, "They evolved on a death world, my lord. Their entire history is warfare." On the bridge of the Excalibur, Admiral Chen received a priority communication from Colonel Torres. "Admiral, we've captured intact Caraxian data cores. You need to see this." The information flashed to his tactical display. Chen's expression darkened as he read. "Patch me through to the Caraxian command ship," he ordered. When Grand Admiral Kraz's face appeared on screen, Chen's voice was ice-cold. "We know what you've been doing with the species you've conquered. The genetic experiments, the neural harvesting." Kraz's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Of course, inferior species exist to advance the glory of the Empire. The Ilarians' neural structures are particularly useful for our biocomputers." "That ends today," Chen replied. "Not just here, everywhere." Kraz laughed. "You think one victory makes you our equal. The Empire spans 27 systems. This is merely one fleet." "You still don't understand what you're facing," Chen said quietly. "Open emergency channel to Earth Command." President Huang's face appeared on a separate screen. "Admiral, status report." "Madam President, we've discovered the Caraxians have been conducting mass harvesting of sentient neural tissue across their conquered territories. Request permission to execute Directive Thunderbolt." Huang's expression hardened. "Permission granted, Admiral. Show them the full measure of Earth's resolve." Chen nodded grimly. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Authorization code Thunderbolt Alpha 79. Deploy RIA packages to all mapped Caraxian systems." Throughout the Artemis fleet, officers activated a series of previously sealed commands. From specialized launch bays, hundreds of small, unremarkable drones detached and accelerated to fold speed, vanishing from normal space. On the Caraxian command ship, alarms suddenly blared. "My lord!" the communications officer called out. "We're detecting fold signatures departing the system. Hundreds of them." "What are they doing?" Kraz demanded of Vrek. For the first time in his career, Supreme Commander Vrek felt true fear. "I don't know," Admiral Chen's voice answered them. "Relativistic impact autonomous hunters. Right now, those drones are heading to every Caraxian colony and military base in your empire. Each carries a simple payload, a 200-kilogram Tungsten rod programmed to impact your central military command centers at 99% light speed. The color drained from Kraz's face. You're bluffing. No species would commit such an act. We're not attacking civilian targets, Chen clarified. Only military installations. You have exactly 1 hour to surrender unconditionally and withdraw from all conquered territories, or we will decapitate your entire empire simultaneously. Kraz's mandibles clicked furiously. This is genocide! No, Chen countered. This is justice. You preyed on peaceful species, harvested their brains while they still lived, and thought no one would ever hold you accountable. You were wrong. 1 hour, Admiral. Not a second more. As the deadline approached, the Caraxian leadership faced an unthinkable decision. Their military doctrine had no contingency for a species willing to strike at their core worlds from across the galaxy. With 10 minutes remaining, Grand Admiral Kraz transmitted his surrender. All Caraxian forces, his message read, stand down and prepare for immediate withdrawal from occupied territories. The war is over. On Luminara, Chancellor Elavi stood amid the ruins of her once beautiful capital, watching as human marines provided medical aid to injured Alarians. Colonel Torres approached, her armor battle-scarred but her posture unbowed. Your people saved us, Elavi said, her skin glowing with gratitude. We will never forget this. Torres removed her helmet, revealing the face of a species the galaxy was just beginning to understand. We came because it was right, she said simply. Humanity doesn't stand by when the innocent suffer. In orbit, Admiral Chen supervised the Caraxian withdrawal and the establishment of a permanent Earth defensive station in the Alarian system. A transmission from President Huang appeared on his private channel. Well done, Admiral, she said. The galaxy will never be the same after today. Chen nodded. No, Madam President, it won't. They know we exist now. They know what we stand for. And what we're capable of, Huang added. The diplomatic corps is already receiving communications from 12 previously unknown species. It seems our response to the Alarian crisis has made an impression. For better or worse, Chen noted, humanity has announced itself to the stars. 6 months later, representatives from 27 species gathered on Earth for the signing of the Luminara Accords, a mutual defense pact that would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. Chancellor Elavi, representing the recovering Alarian civilization, addressed the assembly. When we sent our desperate plea into the darkness, she said, her translator conveying the emotion in her melodic voice, we did not know if anyone would answer. The humans did, not because they had to, but because they believed it was right. She turned to face the Earth delegation, her skin glowing with the highest expression of Alarian respect. The galaxy once looked at humans and saw only Deathworlders, creatures forged in violence and struggle. Now we see the truth. In humanity, the universe has produced a species whose capacity for compassion matches its capacity for war. The Caraxians could not understand this duality, and it was their undoing. President Huang signed the accords with a pen made from Alarian crystal. Earth stands ready to defend peace throughout this galaxy, she declared. Not through conquest, but through alliance. Not through domination, but through cooperation. As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Chen stood on a balcony overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Colonel Torres joined him, both now in dress uniform rather than battle armor. Do you think they understand yet? Torres asked. What it means to have humanity as an ally? Chen shook his head. Not fully. They still see us through the lens of the Artemis fleet, a military power that defeated the undefeatable. And not as a species that would die for strangers, Torres added. They'll learn, Chen replied, watching as the sun set over the ocean. The galaxy is a dangerous place, but it just got a little safer. Across the stars, on worlds both known and unknown to humanity, species watched recordings of Earth's intervention at Luminara. They saw the fury with which humans fought for a people not their own. They witnessed the compassion shown to the rescued and the mercy offered to the defeated. And they remembered. The Deathworlders had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The galaxy would never be the same again.